Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to really dig into the stories and beliefs that shape our world. And today, well, we're tackling a big one. This idea, that hard work plus smarts plus sheer hustle inevitably leads to wealth. It's everywhere, isn't it? That whole grind harder culture promising riches if you just push yourself enough.
Oh, absolutely. It's like the background music to modern life, this
Yeah.
deeply ingrained belief that your bank account is just a reflection of your effort and your smarts. But what if?
Yeah.
What if there's another way to look at it? A perspective from ancient wisdom, specifically the Bible, and maybe surprisingly even echoed by some, big names in finance today. What if that whole premise is just, well, fundamentally shaky?
Right. That's exactly what we're diving into today, a really powerful counter-narrative. We want to explore why, from this viewpoint, earthly riches might just keep slipping through your fingers, no matter how hard you work or how smart you are. Now, this isn't saying effort is pointless. The Bible actually has a lot to say about diligence, working hard. It's more about understanding maybe a different kind of economy, one where our effort is maybe just one part, and there are these other forces, unseen forces, really at play.
Exactly. So our mission today is to unpack these ideas. We'll pull from the biblical text, but also connect them to some perhaps unexpected comments from modern financial thinkers. The goal is to offer you a perspective that might really make you rethink some things about wealth, about success. Expect some maybe surprising facts, possibly a few aha moments about what riches truly are or aren't.
Okay, let's get into it. And we're starting with something that might feel a bit uncomfortable for a lot of us. The Bible seems to strongly suggest that real wealth isn't primarily something you earn. It's more like a divine gift.
Yeah.
I mean, if you see yourself as self-made, how do you even begin to square that with this idea that it's bestowed?
That really is the core tension, isn't it? It clashes head on with that pull yourself up by your bootstraps story we tell ourselves. But if you look through books like Proverbs, Deuteronomy, for Samuel, there's this consistent theme. True wealth, the kind that doesn't bring crushing anxiety with it, is framed as a blessing, a gift straight from God's hand. Proverbs 10.22 says it very clearly. The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. It shifts the focus from your earning power to his provision. He even gives you the ability itself.
So wait, even the things we think are ours, our intelligence, our drive, the opportunities we seize those are gifts too in this view.
Precisely. Look at Deuteronomy 8.18. It reminds people, it is he who gives you power to get wealth. Your ability to work, to innovate, even just to turn a profit, it all flows from that divine source. And the Bible's pretty blunt about God's sovereignty here. 1 Samuel 2.7 states, the Lord makes poor and makes rich, he brings low and lifts up. Even King David, arguably one of the richest kings ever, said in 1 Chronicles 29.1, essentially, wealth and honor come from you, God.
Wow, wealth as a divine gift. That's quite a paradigm shift. It actually makes me think of Warren Buffett. He famously said he won the ovarian lottery, acknowledging the luck of birth. And he also has that quote, someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. He's pointing to those unseen factors, things beyond just individual hustle. Doesn't that sound kind of aligned with this idea, unexpectedly?
It really does. Buffett's comments, even though they're secular, they sort of echo this ancient idea, don't they? And Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he also talks about forces beyond our control. He says something like, it's not just what you keep, but what you're permitted to receive. So, yeah, Proverbs 14.23 does say, all hard work brings a profit. But it seems the blessing, the divine favor, is what elevates mere profit into real lasting riches. So this first point really pushes back against that whole self-made myth. It encourages you, the listener, to consider maybe a deeper divine hand in your own financial story.
Okay, so we've grappled with wealth as a gift, not just earned. But if it's not really ours to begin with, maybe, how permanent is it? Which brings us to the next big idea. Even empires built with diligence, with smarts, they can be incredibly fragile. You might be thinking, okay, maybe it's a gift, but if I work smart, I can build something solid, a legacy. But these sources seem to say even the most carefully built fortunes can just vanish, like sandcastles, really.
Yes, this is a major theme, this emphasis on the temporary nature of earthly wealth. The core idea is that our best efforts, however smart or diligent, often build something, well, fundamentally impermanent. Wealth just doesn't guarantee lasting security, despite how it feels. Proverbs 23, verses 4 and 5, paint such a vivid picture. Don't wear yourself out trying to get rich, it says, because when your eyes light on it, it is gone, for suddenly it sprouts wings, flying like an eagle toward heaven.
It sprouts wings like you can't even hold on to it.
Exactly. It just vanishes, like trying to grab smoke, maybe?
Yeah, or vapor.
Precisely. And the book of Ecclesiastes, wow, written by King Solomon, who had everything. It's basically his report after this huge experiment in accumulating wealth, pleasure,
Yeah.
wisdom, everything. And his conclusion, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind.
Yeah.
He uses this Hebrew word, hebel. It means vapor, breath, smoke, something that looks real, but when you try to grasp it, poof, it dissolves. That's his final word on earthly riches. Fleeting, unsatisfying.
Chasing after the wind. Pebble. That really sticks with you. It makes you question your own pursuits, doesn't it? And didn't Solomon also say something about, like, the more you have, the more people show up to consume it?
Yeah,
Wealth bringing burdens.
he did. Ecclesiastes 5. He who loves money will not be satisfied. When goods increase, they increase who eat them. So your hard-earned wealth doesn't just serve you. It attracts more demands, more mouths to feed, more worries. And he adds in verses 13 and 14, sometimes riches are kept by their owner to his hurt, and then they're lost in a bad venture, gone in an instant. And then the ultimate reality check in verse 15, everyone comes naked from their mother's womb. They take nothing from their toil that they can carry in their hands. Psalm 49 says the same thing. Everyone dies, wise or foolish, and leaves their wealth to others. You just can't take it with you.
Wow. Okay. That is sobering. It really does turn our cultural script upside down. This idea that wealth could just fly away or cause more problems, or that ultimately accounts for nothing after we're gone. That's tough to hear when we're so focused on building, accumulating, leaving something behind. Kiyosaki, again, he talks about the rich having money work for them, unlike the poor and middle class who work for money. But does even that offer real security from this biblical viewpoint?
Well, not necessarily, because the issue isn't just how the money works, but the inherent nature of the money itself, its impermanence. It's interesting, Charlie Munger, Buffett's partner, had a different take on getting rich. He said it was about being happy with what you have, spending less than you make, and time. Patience, frugality, compounding. It wasn't just about hustle. It hints at a different kind of foundation for well-being than just chasing more accumulation. So it really invites you to think, is lasting satisfaction found in stacking up material things or something else entirely?
Right. So, okay, you're working hard, working smart. Maybe you even acknowledge wealth is a gift, and it's temporary. But what if? What if the biggest problem isn't the wealth itself, but the wanting of it, the desire? This feels like where we get into the real spiritual danger zone.
Oh, absolutely. This is a critical point. The Bible is quite explicit about how the pursuit of wealth, the craving for it, can become this profound trap, the core idea. That intense desire for riches leads towards spiritual ruin. It makes it impossible to serve two masters, God and money. You just can't. 1 Timothy 6, verses 9 and 10 are incredibly blunt about this. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It actually calls the desire itself a snare, a trap.
A snare, that's such a strong word, like something deliberately set to catch you, not just a slippery slope.
It is. And think about Jesus' parable of the sower in Mark 4. He talks about the seed sown among thorns. What chokes the word makes it unfruitful. Verse 19 says, the deceitfulness of riches and the desires for other things enter in and choke the word. That word choke in Greek, sympnego, means to strangle, to suffocate completely. So wealth isn't just a distraction. It's presented as actively deceiving and smothering your spiritual life. And then, of course, Jesus' absolute statement in Matthew 6.24. No one can serve two masters. You cannot serve God and money, period. Luke 16.13 says the same. It's an impossible division of loyalty.
So it really boils down to the heart's attitude, doesn't it? Not just managing money well, but where your fundamental longing lies.
Exactly. Luke 12.15 directly warns against covetousness, that deep-seated greed, the constant desire for more. And Proverbs connects this desire to real-world consequences. Proverbs 15.27. Whoever is greedy for unjust gain troubles his own household. And Proverbs 28.2. Whoever hastens to be rich will not go unpunished. There's a clear cost associated with that frantic pursuit.
It's really interesting how some of the modern financial advice sort of bumps up against this, maybe without realizing the biblical roots. Like Dave Ramsey saying, wealth is a tool, not a goal to be chased. Or Buffett's focus on value over price. It implies something deeper than just the dollar amount, doesn't it? Maybe an eternal kind of value.
It does hint at it. And you mentioned Kiyosaki's idea of having money work for you. That's powerful financial advice, no doubt. But does mastering the mechanics of money protect you from the desire for money becoming a snare? The biblical perspective goes deeper than financial literacy. It asks about the state of your heart. It suggests money itself can wield a deceptive power, pulling you away from what truly matters. So this part really asks you, the listener, to examine your own motivations. Are you in control, pursuing wealth responsibly? Or is the desire for wealth starting to pursue you, leading you into that snare?
That's a searching question. Okay, if desire is a snare, what about actually having significant wealth? This leads us to maybe the most shocking concept we've found in the sources, this idea of a kingdom barrier for the rich.
Yes, this is where Jesus' teachings become incredibly stark, frankly. The core idea seems to be that accumulated riches create this sort of invisible wall, making entry into God's kingdom extremely difficult, perhaps from a purely human standpoint, impossible. We all know the analogy from Matthew 19, Mark 10, Luke 18, the camel in the eye of a needle. And it's important to understand this wasn't presented as just, it's tricky. It's framed almost like a mathematical impossibility, like trying to fit something huge into something infinitesimally small.
Wow, a mathematical impossibility. I always heard interpretations about a small gate in Jerusalem called the Needle's Eye or something. But you're saying the language suggests something more absolute.
Well, look at the disciples' reaction right after Jesus says it. Matthew 19.25. They weren't just like, oh, that's tough. They were utterly astonished. They asked, who then can be saved? Their shock suggests they understood Jesus to mean it was genuinely, humanly impossible. And Jesus' response in the next verse is crucial. With man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Salvation for the rich, then, hinges entirely on divine intervention, not on their own ability to somehow manage their wealth correctly or be good enough despite it.
So it's not about finding a clever loophole, but about needing a miracle.
That seems to be the implication. Think about the rich young ruler story, right before the camel analogy. What did Jesus tell him was necessary for him to achieve perfection, to enter the kingdom? Sell your possessions and give to the poor. For him, poverty was the prescribed path. It suggests his wealth was a direct obstacle, incompatible with his specific calling. And remember Jesus' instructions to his own inner circle, the disciples, in Luke 9.3. Take nothing for the journey, no staff, no bag, no bread, no money. Financial vulnerability wasn't an accident. It was commanded.
Gosh, that completely flips modern ideas about blessing being equated with abundance. Kiyosaki focuses on how much you keep. But scripture seems to say even keeping vast wealth creates this huge barrier. Tony Robbins says the secret is doing more for others. But even philanthropy might not overcome this fundamental incompatibility Jesus describes. This really highlights what you called God's reverse economy.
Exactly. And a stunning example of that reverse economy is the Macedonians Paul talks about in 2 Corinthians chapter 8. He says their extreme poverty, and the Greek word tokeia means utter destitution, like beggars, somehow overflowed into rich generosity. Plosios haplotetos, spiritual abundance flowing directly from material lack. They gave the most not despite having the least, but almost because of it. It's a total inversion of how the world thinks. So this section really forces a confrontation, doesn't it? Could your relentless pursuit of earthly security actually be jeopardizing your eternal well-being?
That is a deeply uncomfortable thought. And it seems the warnings don't stop at just difficulty entering the kingdom. They escalate to warnings of direct judgment, a complete reversal of who the world considers fortunate. The Bible seems pretty clear about misery is coming for the rich.
It really doesn't mince words. The core idea is that earthly wealth, especially if it's hoarded or gained unjustly, actually attracts divine judgment. God's kingdom operates on opposite principles to the world's economy. James chapter 5, verses 1 through 6. It's incredibly intense. Come now, you rich, weep and howl for the miseries that are coming upon you. It talks about riches rotting, garments moth-eaten, gold and silver corroding, and their corrosion will be evidence against you and will eat your flesh like fire. Visceral stuff.
Weep and howl, eat your flesh like
Yeah.
fire. Wow, that's not subtle. It's a direct warning of impending doom.
Absolutely no ambiguity there. And remember Jesus' woes in Luke 6. Right after the Beatitudes, the blessings, he says, woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full now, for you shall be hungry. It's a prophetic indictment of finding your ultimate comfort and satisfaction in earthly things. Contrast that starkly with the first Beatitude in Matthew 5. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. It's that spirit of dependence, often fostered by lack, that's valued.
So it all comes back to where your treasure is, where your heart is focused.
Precisely. Matthew 6.19-21 is the classic text. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Luke 12 echoes it. Sell your possessions and give to the needy. Provide yourselves with money bags that do not grow old. It's an explicit command to redirect investment from the temporary to the eternal.
And Revelation 3 has that scathing critique of the church in Laodicea, right? They thought they were rich, needed nothing, but spiritually they were wretched, pitiable, poor, blind, and naked. God's economy completely flips the script. The last first, the first last.
It absolutely does. Matthew 20.16. So the last will be first and the first will be last. Jesus himself lived this. No place to lay his head, as he said in Matthew 8. Total dependence on God. Yet there's also an incredible promise attached to this divestment. Matthew 19.29 assures those who leave houses or lands for his sake, they'll receive 100 times as much in this life, spiritually speaking, and inherit eternal life. Talk about ROI.
That's amazing. 100-fold return for letting go. It's fascinating, too, how some secular financial wisdom seems to accidentally align with these warnings. Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing, said, "The investor's chief problem, and even his worst enemy, is likely to be himself." That resonates with the idea that our own desires, our pursuit of wealth, can work against us. And Buffett's quip, "You only find out who is swimming naked when the tide goes out." It speaks to that hidden vulnerability, the lack of real security, even among the wealthy.
Right. And T. Harv Eker's point about the rich thinking long term. From a biblical view, the truly rich think eternally. Those focus only on earthly riches, however long-term their financial plan, might actually be profoundly short-sighted and spiritually impoverished. So this final challenge really pushes you. What kind of treasure are you actually building? Where is your heart truly invested? In the stuff that rots and vanishes, or the things that last forever?
Well, this has certainly been a deep dive, challenging a narrative many of us just take for granted. We've seen how this biblical perspective really flips the script on wealth. It's presented as a gift, it's often temporary, pursuing it can be spiritually dangerous, and ultimately, it's secondary to things of eternal value. It forces a major recalibration of what success or blessing even looks like.
It really does. And what's striking is the underlying invitation throughout these texts. It's not just condemnation. It's an invitation to humility, to depend on God, not just our own smarts or effort. It's a call to prioritize spiritual richness, character, justice, generosity, over just material accumulation. To be a good steward, yes, but without making wealth the ultimate goal or measure of our lives. Like Psalm 127 says, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. It applies to our finances, too.
The evidence we've looked at is pretty overwhelming, and the implications, they're huge. The Bible doesn't just question if you can get wealthy through your own efforts. It seems to question whether you should even want to make accumulating wealth your primary goal. It feels like maybe we're playing by a set of rules that don't apply in the game that truly matters in the end. Which leaves us with that really pointed question from Jesus himself in Mark chapter 8. For what good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul?
Exactly. That's the ultimate bottom line. The real question isn't, can I get rich despite what the Bible says? Perhaps the more profound question is, can I stay spiritually alive if I make gaining riches my life's focus?
Something definitely worth pondering. How might these insights reshape your own ambitions, your priorities? This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks so much for joining us.